Prime Minister, the amendment for the 2023 budget is currently in Parliament. What I'd like to know, Prime Minister, does this include payments for a person that served in acting positions? There are a number of civil servants that have contacted me that said they served in acting positions. They were supposed to be paid their tulacking. They have not received anything.
Mainly referring to whatever legislation is in place. And though as a young country back in 2010, 11, 12, in the early years, certain things may have been signed off. Once you are aware that certain other provisions should be in place, then of course, His Excellency the Governor, as well as any relevant minister, would be hesitant to sign off on something without the proper legal basis, because you would have gotten advice at that point that this is not allowed. So a lot of people are like, how come it was allowed back in the day? There was a level of, let's call it ignorance, not knowing. But once you know, when you knowingly do something, it's a different story. So as it relates to the tulachas, or what we call in English, the extra bonuses that persons get when they act in a different function within the justice chain, that is the main, let's say, extra that is being regulated with this budget amendment, so that the justice workers can start to be paid. Their national decrees have been drafted, and if anyone is not if somebody's name, or if you realize that you did not get a national decree when this is finalized, you have the usual, let's say, road to walk to ensure, first with your department head and then with the relevant persons within the Ministry of Justice, to ensure that you are taken along. For us to have known, or the Minister of Justice to have known and have that national decree prepared in advance now with all of the others, this would have had to be recorded and sent on. I know there were lots of discussions, and individual, because they had to sign, each officer had to sign an agreement for what their new status would be within the new function books. So, and some of them, I remember the minister being very much concerned that, like you said, there was no actual document stating you're now carrying this function. You know, it happens, suddenly you need people, we needed to act in this function for a period of time. But the minister was even accepting an email that was sent via your supervisor or whatever to corroborate the time that was being claimed. So we had what we had on documents, but the minister went as far as she could with any types of proof to show that persons were in functions, because none of these functions, quote unquote, existed back in that time. So I'm sure that they have been quite thorough, and I'm also sure that anything that is found or discovered after the fact will be rectified as well. So I ask all those persons to just remain very patient. This has been a long process, but it's been a learning process for all concerned. We've never had to deal with this before. And I think the determination and the dedication, most of you see the reports, but we have to deal with the Minister of Justice in meetings, and she is a tiger for her justice workers. She pushes and fights, and so anyone left behind in this trajectory by accident should then make sure that the minister receives an update via email or her Secretary General, to be able to rectify this once the budget has been passed. And then it can probably be done in the 24 budget, because that is also coming up after the amendment is finalized.
I have a question regarding a statement that was made in November, that's from the Prime Minister and from the Central Voting Bureau. And it mentions that for the sake of traffic safety, it is prohibited to place political campaign material on roundabouts on the island or 10 meters before the start of the roundabouts. I then contacted the Central Voting Bureau to see if they enforce the rules that were put into place. And the reply was that the enforcement of public order, including the rules regarding the placement of campaign materials, do not fall within our remit. Instead, it is the responsibility of the Minister of Justice and KPSM to enforce these rules and take necessary actions in case of violations. So number one, it was identified as a safety matter, but number two, during this campaign process, if our future leaders are not respecting the rules that have been made public, it doesn't set a great example for the citizens in terms of our expectations that they follow the rules. So what's the government's plan in terms of enforcing the rules that have been laid out?
Indeed, that has raised some concerns and questions. The intention, we always have to look at the intention of a piece of legislation. And before it became a discussion, there have been discussions specifically between the Main Voting Bureau, the Minister of Justice, and myself pertaining to this situation. The reality of it is, in certain roundabouts, depending on where you place a board, it will obstruct traffic. So the idea was not to obstruct traffic. As we know, certain roundabouts are used all year round for advertisements. So what would be then your reason to not allow a political board? So I think we have to, and we've had that discussion, but I guess based on the focus being on, let's say, process for the amendment and the police, etc., maybe the minister didn't get around to it, but the intention was to adjust the ministerial regulation to reflect that. So in areas, it is specifically where it obstructs traffic. So you can say, for instance, in an area like, say, the Coal Bay one, where you call that the bus driver, what's his name? The Coal Bay one, Krytoff, the Krytoff roundabout. As you're coming down the hill, there are boards there all the time. So in essence, that is not obstructing traffic. But if it's in a place in a certain way that you cannot see oncoming traffic, then it's obstructing traffic. So I believe it's been basically the need to further explain that's where it's obstructing traffic. It has to not obstruct traffic. One of the things we discussed also was around the Coal Bay Hill, on the, not the hillside, but on the other side, where all the flags are right now. The intention with the MR was also not to have the obstruction happen there, but it's not clearly stated, so nothing can be done about it. So I think our intentions vis-a-vis what is published didn't come out as clear as it should, and we will, I hope that the Minister of Justice, because at the end of the day it is her purview to finalize it, sign it off, will make the necessary adjustments, but I can clarify that it has to be an obstruction of traffic. And it doesn't make any sense if you're going to have, let's call it, black on black advertised in the roundabout, all of the carnival events in the roundabout right here, that you would say you can't put a political board.
Mr. Chairman, concerning the company financial reporting, is it true that it had been over 2 years now and GEB cannot do any financial reporting via the SAP system? And if so, please explain why, Mr. Chairman. Also, Mr. Chairman, is it true that the financial reporting can only be done and is only being done via the bank statement? If yes, can the minister explain why this is being done this way? And if that is true, my question that follows next is once again, Mr. Chairman, is it true that NVGEB cannot up to present send a ransomware attack determine the current amount of their revenues due to the fact that the billing system is still not fixed, Mr. Chairman? If so, again, please can the minister explain why? Mr. Chairman, can the minister explain the monitoring and the billing system? It's public secret that the problem is still ongoing with lots of incorrect bills. I was made to understand there are still more than 6,000 consumers that have yet to be billed, Mr. Chairman. Is this correct? Is the Minister of Finance aware of this, Mr. Chairman? And if so, please state why. And if that's not true, or if that's not the amount, then can the minister explain, or if he's aware of what the correct amount is? Mr. Chairman, also furthermore, can the minister give an indication to members of parliament or to the general public when these issues at GEBE will be solved? When will our only electricity company return to normalcy as it is, Mr. Chairman? We have seen the protests, we have seen the concerns, we have seen so many things going on with GEBE.
The minister answered on behalf of the other ministers my question regarding the medical coverage for persons who are not covered at the moment, given the fact that the general health insurance is now slated to be introduced in 2025. And the response to that question was that there is reparation legislation that has been drafted, sent to the Council of Advice. A report was prepared and that it will be at Parliament soon. And I would like to ask, what exactly does the repair legislation or reparation legislation include? So if the minister can just give a global indication, does this now mean that those who are currently not covered, such as vendors, taxi and bus drivers, and sole proprietors, does the reparation legislation, will it include those persons now to receive coverage? Is my question. Secondly, the minister responded in connection with my question about a MOU having been signed with BTP for some type of oversight over GEBE. That was signed back in 2017. And the minister responded, and I paraphrase, that a report was made based on that MOU. Apparently nothing, and the minister can confirm or correct, apparently nothing was done on the basis of that MOU except for a report to be made. That report now has been resubmitted now recently to the minister, is my question. That's a recent submission of that report. Is that report a public document? Can the report that apparently was there from BTP regarding GEBE, can that report be shared with Parliament? And I'm understanding that it had nothing to do with regulatory oversight, but rather with the energy plan of government. So again, can that report by BTP regarding the energy plans of government, can that be shared with Parliament?
At RBC, we know the roles you have to play can change quickly. Whether it's a homeowner, a new parent, today's head chef, or the family chauffeur. Whatever life asks you to be. RBC is a bank for all of you. Win Christmas cash with a no-fee loan from RBC.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
Mr. Chairman, it is good to see some progress, let's say, on paper regarding a special needs policy, Mr. Chairman, but the question that I was most looking forward to was indeed the budget, because we have to be careful that we're not creating policies on paper that are not directly tied to being executed within our budget. The minister gave a vague answer on that. I would like to maybe ask it differently. Has the policy in and of itself also outline the potential costs, and have discussions been had to ensure that the funding will be there to execute the policy? And secondly, the question on the minds of most families, most parents, and most teachers is when? When can we expect to see this execution of this policy? When can these loving, exceptional children finally get the education and the care that they deserve?
In the implementation phase of the implementing of the policy, a roadmap will be established, which I indicated in my answering, and the roadmap will indicate that there will be a phased implementation of the policy. Right now, at the moment as we speak, I indicated that the professional development program have been, let's say, upgraded, or a new item has been inserted in it, and that is the certification of the teachers who need to be certified to be able to work with children with exceptionalities. And that is one of the ways that you would realize that the students or the persons with exceptionalities are benefiting immediately from this policy.
Last week, a mother of a 6-year-old came up to me and decided to move to the U.S. as an option to give that care, to that education to her child that was on the spectrum. Her child is autistic. And as a result, they end up going to private schools, which cost a lot of money. So my question to you, Minister, is, through Chair, is what is in place right now today for parents that have kids under the age of 6 to get the care and education that they were getting beforehand in excellence? This is specifically for kids under the age of 6. Thank you very much. Before I go, I wanted to make sure I point out the fact that when we're talking about discrimination in education, is something that I have been asked directly last week, and this deals with it, discrimination in education. And so in public education, the options here now is only private education, which is very expensive. What are we doing in public education to avoid discrimination in education for those kids on the spectrum with ADHD, Down syndrome, everyone that it comes under that category of special needs? Thank you very much.
At the moment, indeed, we do not have any, let us say, policy that covers children under 6, but this policy that we are finalizing will start at the age of 4. So we will be able to cater to students at a lower age. And what do we have presently? Presently, we do have the Prince William Alexander School that caters to children with special needs.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Minister, we're talking about special needs education. Training for teachers are extremely important. However, when we look at the life of a special needs student, therapy is very, very much involved and heavily needed. Has the ministry, or does this policy also address issues as it concerns therapy? So were therapists also consulted? So trying to understand how much the ministry is working with, whether it's the Ministry of VSA, but in specifically the therapists, the psychologists. You mentioned psychologists, but there are also behavioral therapists, physical therapists. So understanding how the policy addresses, or at least works and connects to therapy outside of the school, that is one. Next question, through you, Mr. Chair, is about any physical improvements to the Prince William Alexander School, as well as the new school that is supposed to be established, because I am still, I believe that PWAS is, my time is up. PWAS is temporary, so understanding what is going to happen with the school. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
In regards to, indeed, the various types of therapists that would be needed in the life of a person or a child with exceptionalities, we do begin with our SSSD, our Student Support Services Division, because this division is the division that is manned with the various specialists that can work with children with exceptionalities. Most naturally, if we do not have the specialist in-house, we would have to find a specialist or buy in that service. In regards to the physical changing of the locations, the policy will indicate how this is done. When the policy is implemented, then a lot of adjustments will take place.
Was this policy, Minister, drafted in collaboration with the Ministry of VSA? And that ties into my second question, because we see the struggle is actually assessments. There's also an issue getting young persons assessed. Even adults have a hard time getting assessed for whether they are on the autism spectrum, ADHD, etc. So I just want to know if the policy was drafted in collaboration with Ministry of VSA, and whether or not it was, what is the plan then from ECYS for assessments of students? Thank you.
When you have a policy of this nature, it is very difficult to say that no conversations were had absolutely with the Ministry of VSA. But this policy is strictly under the Ministry of ECYS, and so the work was done under the Ministry of ECYS. The division of student support services is the division where I indicated that we do have the specialist in-house, and indeed with conversations with the departments and the divisions, I do understand and I know that it is sometimes very difficult to get persons tested. And for that reason, I approved the payment to pay for the testing, the psychological testing of those children from the Farmer Excellent Academy.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurance.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
At RBC, we know the roles you have to play can change quickly. Whether it's a homeowner, a new parent, today's head chef, or the family chauffeur. Whatever life asks you to be. RBC is a bank for all of you. Win Christmas cash with a no-fee loan from RBC.
The opening of our new state-of-the-art tourism office is a major milestone for our community. With the new hub for tourism, we have the potential to revolutionize how we promote and develop our local tourism industry. Thank you for joining us today as we celebrate this grand opening of our new tourist office. With your attendance, we show the collective commitment to promoting our tourism in our community. Tourism is vital to the local economy as it does bring in revenue and create jobs. The new office will play a crucial role in driving tourism growth. We will work to create new opportunities for visitors to enjoy our community, including cultural and recreational events. The office will also help coordinate marketing efforts and promotions to increase the tourism numbers and revenues. Other than that, guys, I don't want to make my speech too long. I know there's some other members are here from Parliament, like MP Bryson, that will have a nice, elaborate speech. I also don't want to take away too much of time from Mei-Ling in her speech to dig in too much. But what I want to say is a special thank you to the tourist office employees, to Mei-Ling, and also to everyone that had a part to play in this project, that we made this happen, and we did realize it in the end, and we do have something to be proud of from today moving forward, guys. And thank you again for coming out. I do enjoy seeing everyone here.
In this building right here, I actually was in first grade in the Sister Marie Laurence. So it's kind of special for me that years later, we are here to now make this not just the home for students, but for the home of many other students that have been educated in a country that depends primarily on tourism for all our livelihood. I think it's a very good symbol that tourism and culture and history in St. Martin going forward are one. It is something that we have to continue to promote in our country and understand that the people come here not just for the regular things that other islands may have, but the people, the culture, the history, the music, the food, I can go on and on. That is what makes St. Martin special. And this building, in my opinion, definitely exemplifies that.
It gives me great pleasure to be standing here today, open the long-awaited brand new St. Martin Tourism Bureau, as well as the launching of the new destinations branding. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, in 2022, the travel and tourism sector contributed 7.6% to the global GDP, which represents $7.7 trillion. Global tourism is the world's largest industry, contributing with nearly 500 million consumers of tourism services industry per year. It is, however, a fact that with the ongoing global situation of wars and other challenges, such as airlines getting back on track and recent natural disasters, dictate that tourism and travel sector will continue to be a recovering stage to get back to the pre-pandemic numbers. The fact also is that more and more destinations worldwide are aiming for a piece of tourism to boost their economy. Therefore, in effect, making the pie a little smaller for all of us. So a destination such as Sweet St. Martin, where the tourism sector is the major pillar of the economy, signifies the importance of effectively improving our product to meet and exceed the traveling public's expectation. That is why when the opportunity was presented for us to move into this historical building, we jumped at the opportunity, and here we are today at Front Street 28.